Championship weekend in college football. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like the videos, share the videos, and of course, subscribe here. We've got Steve Merrill on the line each and every week to help us get the edge on the three most important games of the week. All right, Steve, it's championship week. Let's go to the Big Ten with Ohio State as a huge favorite in Indianapolis, taking on Northwestern. The Buckeyes a 20.5-point favorite.
Yeah, and they seems to be changing the rules for Ohio State, so you got to figure it's hard to go against them in this game. About a month ago they said you're going to have 6 regular season games to qualify, and Wisconsin then all of a sudden loses 2 or 3 straight after that with their letdown when they realized they weren't going to get there. And then when it didn't look like Ohio State was going to get there, they kind of changed the rules again, and they're in here now at 5-0. They want them in the championship. They don't want Northwestern winning this game, but then again, it's not a question of who's going to win this. Ohio State laying 20.5, as you mentioned. It's more of a question, do they win by more than 3 touchdowns? And I'll tell you what, we're getting probably the better defensive team here, getting 3 touchdowns. I've used Ohio State a couple times. I used them in their most recent cover. I had them against Indiana also before that. They had the 21-point early lead as a 20.5-point favorite. They ended up winning by only 7 a few weeks ago. So I am reluctant to lay up more than 3 touchdowns against a good defensive dog. But the problem is I just don't know if Northwestern can play from behind. It's the Northwestern team that only throws for 6 yards per pass against teams that allow nearly 7. Ohio State's pass defense has been weak this year. But once again, just not sure Northwestern can take advantage. And if there's going to be a situation where Ohio State could really pull ahead and just keep going, it seems like it could be this week.
Similar situation 2 years ago in Indianapolis. Northwestern came in with 5 losses, but won that side of the Big Ten against Ohio State, a team that eventually won the Rose Bowl and finished top 3 in the nation. Close game and did the fourth quarter, but the Buckeyes won by 21. Clemson-Notre Dame, Part 2. There's conventional wisdom here that if Notre Dame wins, both teams, or if Clemson wins, both teams will go on to the college football playoff, despite Notre Dame winning, of course, in overtime at home. They're in a 10.5-point underdog in Charlotte.
Yeah, big line move on this. We had some advanced lines for these possible matchups over a week ago before everybody played last weekend. And the Ohio State look-ahead line was 20.5. Of course, they didn't play, so we didn't really see that line move. The look-ahead line on this game about a week ago was 7.5 initially at 1 or 2 sports books over a week ago. Quickly, then when a couple more opened, it went to 10, 10.5, and that's where it stands now. It's over that key number of 10, Clemson being the 10.5-point favorite. Obviously, it's a huge revenge game for the Tigers. They were shorthanded, and not at offense. The true freshman quarterback played fantastic a couple months ago on the road. That's not why they lost that game. They lost because their defense wasn't good, but they were beat up and banged up on defense, are a little healthier now. But Notre Dame's still a dangerous underdog catching double digits, a 10-0 straight-up Notre Dame team. This line does look inflated. I think that revenge is priced in a little too much. I could definitely see Clemson winning this game, but perhaps maybe not covering. And I do think Notre Dame deserves to get into the playoffs either way. I don't necessarily have them as one of my 3 or 4 best teams, but I'm not really sure who else deserves to be in there right now, and especially with Florida losing last week. They're out of the picture now. If they upset Alabama, I guess that could cause some headaches for everybody. But I think A&M would sneak in ahead of them still. But right now, Clemson needs to win, I believe, to get in. Notre Dame, I think, is probably solid either way. So I do see Clemson winning this game, but the value's gone. I mean, once again, it was 7.5. That even looked hefty. Now it's 10.5. Keep in mind, they were about a 5-point road favorite with a backup quarterback and some banged-up defenders. They lose in double OT. It does look like this line a little inflated now in the rematch.
Alabama has been consistently the most dominant team in college football, winning over even some of the better teams in the SEC, Texas A&M, Georgia by 3 to 4 scores. They beat Arkansas last weekend by 7 touchdowns, take on a Florida team coming off a disappointing loss against LSU that may have killed their college football playoff chances, much to be determined there. But Florida's a 17-point underdog in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for Florida to have a chance, they'd have to win outright here as a 17-point dog. I probably want Clemson to lose, actually, because, once again, I think a 1-loss Notre Dame team probably gets in over a 2-loss Florida team. So I guess you need Florida to win outright as a 17-point dog. You need Notre Dame to win out as a 10.5-point dog. And, I mean, even then they might not be in. So, yeah, I'd say it's less than a 1% chance here. Because keep in mind, they lost at Texas A&M, and that was a road game, but A&M had about a 100-yard edge in that game earlier. I thought it was a legitimate win. So I think Florida's in big trouble. What's interesting is I thought of the 2 teams that would have the letdown last week, I thought it was more so going to be Alabama against Arkansas. I actually thought that was the one spot I would not use Alabama. They've covered now for 2 months straight every game. I've used them several times as a best bet for my clients, including the win against Auburn a few weeks ago. Last week is the 1 week I recommended going against them. I thought that was a bad spot against Arkansas, laying 32. Arkansas capable enough to keep it closer, get the backdoor cover. And what happens? Bama goes out and wins 52-3. Meanwhile, Florida was the team that obviously had the look ahead, and they lose outright to LSU as a 23-point favorite. LSU was over 9-1 to win that game straight up as a 23-point dog. So you definitely have to worry about Florida's mindset now. Meanwhile, as I said, if Bama didn't let down last week, when will they let down? Yes, they obviously know they're in. They have the semis and the finals ahead. But I think they'll probably be pretty focused for this game as well. And the big difference here is on defense. Both teams offensively explosive, over 41 points a game each. But defensively, Alabama, 16.5 points, less than 5 yards per play. And we saw last week that Florida is vulnerable on defense. LSU put up 37. You would think Alabama is going to get there. The team total, Mark, might be the best way to play this. It's a huge total for the game, by the way, 75. So that makes the team total, it's about 30, 47-30, 46-29 is what the odds makers are saying, but it's hard to imagine Alabama doesn't get into that mid-40 range.
All right, folks, so you get the 3 leans here, but you get the pick of the week from Steve over on Patreon. You can go to Patreon, search Mark Rogers TV, or just go down into the description section of this video, grab the link, and join us for Steve's pick of the week.